Dr. Cal, I'm really excited to have you here on the podcast, on the Forester's Forecast. I'm really excited about the conversation that we're about to have.
Thanks for inviting me, Mickey.
I'm just curious, a lot of people know you because you've been at LSU for 40 years,
42.
42 years, yeah. And you have made your mark in history as the diameter distribution guy, and you're doing, of course, some new things with stand table projection, and um, I'm really excited to hear about your work and where you think it's going. But just to start, you have a very interesting path in forestry, and I'm just curious if you would just share a little bit about how you got into forestry and how you made it to VPI and all of that.
Okay, I was born in Saigon, South Vietnam. And when I got when I graduated from high school, we had to take a national entrance exam to all the universities. And the only one
Mm,
that you could get in without any exam is number one, law, number two, science. And needless to say,
mm,
there are tons of people there, so very, very difficult to graduate. And I was
mm,
lucky to pass to two universities or colleges. Of course, I flunked one to engineering, but I was lucky to pass the one into forestry and into pharmacy. I never liked chemistry. So, I decided to go with forestry. And when my mom heard about that, she was ecstatic because my older brother was already in medical school. And she had a dream of having a two-story building, renting a two-story building. The doctor's office would be on the top floor, the second floor, and the bottom would be the pharmacy. And of course, my brother, the doctor, will write a prescription that only I can decipher. So she was devastated when she heard that I select forestry instead. So I select forestry not because that was my choice, but basically that is the best option I had at the time. But turned out that I just love it. It's an acquired taste.
yeah.
Once you're in, you're in. We had 1975. We had a turnover. We lost our country to the communists, and I was in the Philippines at the time. I was on a scholarship for a master program. You couldn't believe it. It was in silviculture, and my advisor there, Dr. Domingo, turned out that later I learned that he was from Iowa State, and he was the office mate of both Dr. Dave Smith from Virginia Tech, yeah, and Tim Max. And it's a small world. And I took, when I was in the Philippines, I took a genetic course under Dr. Zabata, I think. And later, when I look at the alumni list from LSU, he got a master from LSU.
Oh, definitely a small world.
Yeah, it's a small world, but I became a refugee in 1975, so I never finished my master there.
Mm,
And I was sponsored out. Uh, and when I was in the refugee camp, my caseworker contacted somebody and turned out that was Dr. William Dewar. He wrote the textbook in economics.
Okay.
He was somewhere else, retired. He was at the Virginia Tech at the time.
Okay.
So he introduced me to a church in Blacksburg that sponsored me and my mom.
Mm.
So when I was at Blacksburg, I went and paid a visit to Dr. Smith, and he was the head of civil culture at Virginia Tech at the time.
Mm.
And we talked a little bit about the program, and I mentioned my concern that of my English
Mm.
or lack thereof, and so he opened the file. That was my application, letter of
Mm.
application, and he said, "Well, your English fine, a little bit wordy, perhaps, but that was true for most graduate students."
Yeah.
You know why it was worthy? Because I had an inferiority complex in terms of English, of course. So
Mm.
I use big words.
Yeah. Right.
Well, I learned my lesson. If you check my publication afterwards, is as clean as I could make it. Very
Right.
simple because of what Dr. Smith said.
Hmm.
So I was in the master program in civil culture, and I was my first quarter. It was a spring quarter. I took all the courses of the undergrad, this junior level, including the camps. I went to the camp. I wanted to learn forestry from the uh, American perspective.
Mm.
And guess who taught me mensuration, which is measurement? Dr. Tim Max.
Wow. Yeah.
So I told my advisor, we were chatting, I said that, you know, I like math, and man, that course, I just like it.
Mm.
Before I knew it, he picked up a phone and say, Harold, I got, I got a potential student for me. So he sent me to the third floor to meet Dr. Harold Burkhardt.
Mm.
And Burkhardt gave me a song and dance about what biometrics is about and what
Mm.
a biometrician does. I came downstairs and told my advisor, I think I like it. He
Mm.
said, okay, I'll make the paperwork for you to switch.
Mm.
I told you I am a reluctant forest biometrician.
Yeah.
Ever heard of a famous philosopher named Yogi Berra?
Yeah.
I know you laugh at that.
Yeah.
Remember what he said? When you reach the fork, you take it.
Yeah.
So I reached a fork, I took it.
Yeah.
And every fork I took so far in my career, never regretted it.
Yeah.
So I was lucky to take Dr. Max's course, and I was lucky that my advisor got the very nice to send me upstairs. He lost a
Mhm.
student, but I gained a good professor, you know.
Yeah.
And I was in biometrics, and Dr. Tim Max was my professor. And well, I guess he got me because he had only one graduate student at the time, and that was his last semester. You know him? His name's Tom Lynch.
Yeah. I was going to mention, Tom came on the podcast a few episodes back and talked about his time with Tim.
I watched the podcast. I'm going to tell you a story about Tom
Okay.
Lynch.
We're ready.
Well, I told you I took the class with Dr. Max. So uh, Tom was a TA
Mm.
for Dr. Max. He graded my papers. Never saw him, never met him. I didn't even know that he exists. I met him way later. But when he saw my wife in a meeting, he told my wife that, oh, I used to teach Quang. And she believed him because of his gray hair.
Yeah.
See, that's uh, story of my life. I don't get no respect. But anyway, Dr. Max left. So I think he went to Washington, somewhere out west, and working with the Forest Service. And by the way, he was my valuable partner.
Yeah.
Mhm. And then Dr. Burkhardt took over. So I got a master under him. And I thought about going to Georgia for the PhD.
Mm.
And, Bailey and Burkhardt.
Mhm.
So I decided to stay with Dr. Burkhardt because I did not think that I learned all from him.
Yeah.
And I was right.
Yeah.
Right after the I got my degree. For the summer, I kind of didn't do anything except like writing the manuscript
Mhm.
for the thesis. And he talked to me and he began to drop names
Mm.
as if, okay, this guy, that guy, as if they will be my future, what's the term for that? Colleague,
Yeah.
rather than, pie in the sky professor. You see,
Mhm.
uh, I think you've been under him, you know how much he taught us, not just the research uh, thing. You know Greg Summer, right?
I do, yeah.
Greg Summer was my best friend,
Mhm.
classmate. We graduated at the same time. We had both master and PhD at the same time,
Mhm.
and he was under Oldewald.
Mm.
But Burkhardt called him in and me and said, "I have a manuscript. I'd like both of you to review."
Mhm.
So he taught us how to review
Yeah.
paper, and then we had a meeting with him. And man, Greg went first and talked on and on and on about the thing.
Mhm.
The guy's good. You have
Mhm.
to admit that.
Mhm.
When it's my turn, I got nothing to say. So I say, well, I checked the table, and this is so something's not really right about the equation, the table. So I did the minute checking. So Dr. Barker said, well, that's important too. I felt really bad.
Yeah, yeah.
I, I, well, you know what? That's what happened when you have a real good partner or a real good classmate.
Yeah.
Well, Greg Summer is just top notch.
Yeah.
And I, uh, I heard your previous podcast, so I know how you feel about not being the best
Yeah.
when you are with in that group of Berkeley students.
Mhm.
And remember, I was with Dick Daniels,
Mhm.
Rex Summers,
Mhm.
Dave Reed,
Mhm.
Ed Green.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I was, and my script was before me.
Mhm.
Uh, what's his name from Mississippi State?
Tom Matney?
Tom Matney was before me.
Yeah.
So we kind of claimed relatives afterward.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know about the family tree?
Yeah.
You have uh, Schumacher.
Mhm.
I think he got two real good students. Clutter, Jerry Clutter, and George Furnival.
Mm-hmm.
And Clutter got many students, but two real good ones, Bailey and Burkhardt.
Mm-hmm.
And Burkhardt got many students, and he got me too.
Yeah.
So I'm very glad to be included in the family tree. I keep telling my students, I say, okay, now you know where you came from.
Yeah, right. I think the last count was between 50 and 60 masters and PhD students. Um, and I don't know if Mike Strube gets included in those because he went to PhD in statistics. But yeah,
He got
Burkhardt
the
always
master under Burkhardt.
did. He did get the masters with Burkhardt. I couldn't remember, but
Yeah,
uh,
he's in.
yeah, the family tree is quite large, and it's nice to have those connections. I mean, basically everywhere in the world, everywhere you go, there's a Burkhardt student somewhere.
You know, if you look at Dr. Burkhart's contribution,
Hmm.
I would say 50% his research,
Hmm.
50% his grooming of his students.
Yeah, yeah. I remember going into his office for a 5-minute question, and 2 hours later he's still teaching you something. And you're like, I'm sorry to waste your time, I know you're so busy. No, 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 don't worry, don't worry, this is what we're doing. And that dedication to his students was what made him the person that he was. Just and every time I've seen him win an award, it was always, this is because of the students. He never took credit. It was always because of the students. But like you said earlier, Qual's equation, he gave the students the credit for everything, but many of the times it was his ideas. Yeah, we miss him. We miss him a lot for sure. I was telling a colleague few weeks ago that I have to ask some questions because I don't have my mentor around anymore, because you could still call him and say, hey, Burkhardt, what do you think about this? And he would tell you, and it would always be good advice. I'm glad you had that time with him, and I'm glad you had the cohort. It's interesting that, that was in early 80s? No, or late 70s.
I got my master in 78.
Hmm.
Oh, by the way, uh, I know that Mike Stroop mentioned in your podcast before that he got a he did a PhD the qualifying exam
Hmm.
with his stat department,
Hmm.
and then he went on and got a degree in statistics.
Hmm.
Uh, so he's the first one
Hmm.
with the link to the stat department.
Hmm.
I believe that we were the second group,
Hmm.
and we wanted to have a master in statistics. And so you have to give credit to Dave Reed. Dave Reed was 1 year after me,
Hmm.
and he kind of talked to them about that. So they agreed to let us do that.
Yeah.
So me and Greg Summer was the first, and Dave and Ed Green was the second
Mm.
group. So it was tough, man.
Yeah.
But I want to mention this. The faculty over there told Burkhardt
Hmm.
that they were impressed with our performance,
Hmm.
especially the theoretical stuff, the
Hmm.
math stuff part.
Hmm.
What they were surprised was that we did not do as well in the applied part,
Oh, okay.
the applied statistics.
Yeah.
Do you know why?
Mm-mm.
So I told Burkhardt, it's very simple. Instead of taking the applied statistics sequence like a regular stat student, we took the Mickey Mouse biometry.
Oh, yeah.
We did not really learn much.
Yeah.
The applied statistic thing actually is not applied. There's a lot of distribution in there.
Right. Right.
So that's why we didn't do as well.
Did you have Dr. Reynolds
Yeah,
Yeah, he taught.
he was on my committee.
Yeah, he taught me math stat. He was on my committee as well. No, he didn't end up. I had to get a different statistician on my committee because by then he was, well, we're talking about 30 years, 25, 30 years apart. He finally was like, yeah, I'm not doing this anymore. But he taught me math stat. I didn't get a formal master's in statistics because why? Because I was in the program and I was taking linear models again for like the fifth time. And I went to Dr. Reynolds and I said, Dr. Reynolds, like, I'm going to stay in your math stat course, but I'm going to get out of this like program because I want to take a different course. This is the fifth time I've been in a linear models course, and you know what? I'm not getting anything out of it. And I see the next course is ANOVA, and because I don't want to do ANOVA again, so I actually had them just tailor a program to me where I could take the advanced nonlinear modeling courses and that sort of stuff, Bayesian courses, the things that were fun, but wouldn't necessarily get me a formal degree in statistics because at the end of the day, I knew I wanted to be a forest biometrician and not a forest statistician, which I do see a difference. Yeah.
Well, that degree didn't really help me much. I didn't get any extra money or anything
Mhm.
when I got a job
Right.
here.
But two of my lab mates are now working in non-forestry fields, and much of the reason they got their jobs is because of their masters in statistics. So for some people, it is beneficial to have it. For me, I didn't feel so, and so far I haven't really needed it. I mean, the amount of statistics courses that I have is sufficient. Yeah.
I encourage all of my students, especially a PhD student,
Mhm.
to get a master in statistics as well.
Yeah.
And turn out that all of them get a job in pharmaceutical companies.
Right. Yeah.
They pay more.
Right. They pay a lot more. Yeah, it's a much better gig if you're trying to make money. But I'm having a lot of fun, so it's worth it not to go into a job that I never would have liked. Yeah. Well, you were you on the paper? I think Dick Daniels is the main author, but it was the Potato, the original manuscript for Potato. Were you a part of that?
No, no, he was there. We overlapped for a few years,
Mhm.
but he was already established
Yeah.
when I came. You know, at first I did not have a under citizenship,
Hmm.
so I got paid uh, being a student worker.
Hmm.
So my mom was in a Chinese restaurant. I I work at McDonald's, cut grass,
Hmm.
and work in a Chinese restaurant too as a busboy, and do the student worker thing
Hmm.
until I get the citizenship.
Hmm.
But before that, I remember one summer I got 72 hours of work.
Wow. Yeah.
I should count.
Yeah.
So life was hard at the time.
Hmm.
And not to mention that I was working at McDonald's, and for some reason, the manager loves me, but the superintendent, he supervised like three stores in
Hmm.
the area. For some reason, he didn't like me.
Hmm.
I rubbed him the wrong way,
Hmm.
and you know me. I'm Asian. I'm always respectful and all that, right?
Right.
But somehow he didn't like me. So one day I did something kind of bad, stupid, and he said, "Okay, don't want to see you anymore."
Hmm.
So manager told me that, well, how about a night shift?
Hmm.
So I closed. By closing the closing group, have to clean up and everything. So I left like 2 a.m.
Mm,
I have class at 8.
mhm.
Those were tough.
Yeah. So when I moved to Blacksburg, um, I didn't know anything about Blacksburg. I asked around, trying to find a place to live, and they said go to these apartments. I'm not going to name them, but everybody that moves to Blacksburg now knows the main apartments. And so I went there and I got an apartment, and what was available to me cost $1,000 a month for rent. My stipend was $24,000 a year, so half of my stipend was going to rent, and so I couldn't. I was like all grad students. I wasn't eating very well, and so I got a job at Target, and I was the guy that stocks the shelves in the morning, and we started at 3 a.m. And so I'd work from 3 a.m. to 10 a.m. and then I would go to school to my office and start working on my dissertation. And then I had night classes, so I was in class until 8 p.m. And then I would get home at 9 and then get 4 hours of sleep and wake up and do it again in the morning. And it was a tough time. Even harder when you have to hold down 2 or 3 jobs, I imagine.
See, when I was a student worker, uh, Dick Daniels had a job, key punching.
Mm-hmm.
Again, computer cars,
Mm-hmm.
So all you have to do is you have the whole thing on a piece of paper and you just punch it. And he told me what he needs me to do, and I wanted to impress him.
Mm-hmm.
So I say, so what is the objective of your study?
Mm-hmm.
And he looked at me like I'm crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But he was patient.
Yeah.
He explained to me what he needed to do. But of course, I didn't need to know all that. All I had to do was just key punch.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have a meeting somewhere. So we have a lot of other people, faculty, and people from industry and everything. And that was in a restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
And here I see Dick Daniels being buddy buddy first name basis with all the professors, and I was so impressed. Remember, this is he's a research associate. He's a PhD student,
Yeah.
right? And I was a really green master student. Oh man, I say what a life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I remember being a Green Master student, and I've told my story with you enough that I don't need to tell it again. But one of the things that I encourage the master students to do now, or even new PhD students who haven't been in, forestry in the South, at meetings, go to the oldest person in the room and introduce yourself and talk to them, because you're all very nice. You're all very willing to talk to us and tell us your stories and help us out with what we're working on. Um, I remember at the last Southern Mints meeting that one night you and Charles and I were sitting there and you were just writing down SAS code for us. And I said, it was so exciting to be there to see, this new code that you were working on. And I can't think of how many people wish they could have, been there to do that. It was an amazing experience. So we appreciate your time that you take to, still educate us, even those of us that are out of school who know that education is essentially a lifelong endeavor.
Oh, I was telling you the story about Maxenberger tape equation, and suddenly I got
Oh,
sidetracked.
sorry.
I think it's all your fault.
Yeah, it is.
But anyway, I told you that in the filing cabinet,
Yeah.
I found a computer deck
Mm-hmm.
of computer cards that label Maxenberger tape equation.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had to do the evaluation of things. Of course, Maxenberger tape equation is one of them. And I keep thinking it's there.
Mm-hmm.
So when Max left, I said, uh-oh. I went and checked.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, he took it with him.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I said, oh, geez. So I went into Burkhardt. I said, it's no longer there. And Burkhardt said, okay, I'm going to call him and ask him to send the thing to you. I say, nah, let's see if I can duplicate that,
Mhm.
which is a good thing. So after that, I learned about matrix.
Mhm.
Uh, I had a course in matrix, but not how to invert a matrix
Mhm.
using computers.
Mhm.
And then I learned about uh, nonlinear programming.
Mhm.
So how you do a least square on that thing,
Mhm.
and you learn so many techniques from that. And also, I learned that there are two types of nonlinear parameters. One is linear and one's nonlinear.
Mhm.
For example, for the Maxenberg-type equation, the joint points are nonlinear.
Mhm.
But if they are fixed or they are known, the rest is linear.
Right.
So instead of a 6 by 6 problem, because you have 6 parameters,
Mhm.
I reduce to a 2 by 2 problem. So, so tremendous fast. Oh, okay. Let me finish. And then of course, it was written in Fortran. Guess what? It was like 2 inch thick.
Mhm.
And then later, I learned that man, you can do in SAS when they have a 1979 uh, manual of SAS.
Mhm.
They have an example. You can do segmented regression in there,
Mhm.
linear but segmented.
Mhm.
Oh, you can program inside Proc and Lin.
Yeah.
I did not know you could do that. So I wrote a very simple SAS program to do that.
Mhm.
It took 5 minutes of computer time, mainframe.
Mhm.
When I ran my own program, it took 5 minutes. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
And then they have a new computer system. The whole system was brand new,
Mhm.
faster. Usually submit it, and you will see on the screen it stay there, right? But for this new system, you submit, it's gone.
Yeah.
I thought something's wrong, so later I got like 5 copies of same thing. It
Yeah.
was that fast.
Yeah. Wow.
Most of my work uh, really required the coding.
Mhm.
And my mentor is, you wouldn't believe it, Mike Stroop.
Mhm. Yeah.
I told you he's my mentor
Mhm.
because one day I told him that I want to do a simultaneous estimation of
Mhm.
parameters uh, for both
Mhm.
tree survival
Mhm.
and tree diameter growth.
Mhm.
And they're different.
Mhm.
The tree survival, they have a different way you do it. You do maximum likelihood, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
And for diameter, you do least square, right?
Mhm.
So they don't talk the same language.
Right.
So Mike said, well, why don't you do likelihood for both?
Mhm.
See all the secret from Warehouser, he didn't tell us anything. But I listened to your podcast when you interview him. I said, oh my God, everything I did, he really did it like 1,000 years ago, you know?
Yeah.
So I took his advice. We did that, and we got a paper together about that. In that model, uh, we should I should add the two likelihood together, log likelihood together.
Mhm. Mhm.
But I did not have a good reason.
Mhm.
My reason is simple. I am ignorant, so I should add them together. As good a reason as any, you
Yeah,
know.
right?
And there was an unknown reviewer, and just the way he writes it, it must be Tom Lynch.
Yeah.
Only Tom Lynch can have that kind of reasoning, you know.
Yeah.
He said that, well, what you are doing is actually a conditional probability.
Mm-hmm.
You know, probability of this is probability of that, time probability of A given B
Mm-hmm.
time. So probability of diameter growth given the trees are alive.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why you multiply them. That's why the log likelihood has to be added together.
Mm-hmm.
You believe that?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
put it in the paper. Golly. You know, you play tennis. You know anything about doubles in tennis?
I don't play tennis, no.
The the rule to be a smart doubles player,
Mm-hmm.
first to pick a good partner.
Mm-hmm.
Make sense?
Right.
So the rule of thumb being a smart biometrician is to be associated with smart cookies.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Maestro, Tom Lynch,
Mm-hmm.
and now I have you, man.
Well, so a little bit about our first meeting, our introduction to each other. I was presenting my work on stand table projection.
Are you going to tell the
I'm
story
not going to
now?
tell the whole story, but the
Okay.
thing is you were there and you came and you talked to me, and I went and told Dean Coble, and he said, you should get him to be a co-author on your paper. And I said, oh, that's a smart move, because if I get him to be a co-author, then this is going to be, he's not going to come and destroy me on the review.
Well, that was the good old days. You were a naive graduate
Yeah,
student,
for
and
sure.
I was the young and the restless.
Yeah.
Yeah, I knew Dean Coble for a long, long time.
Yeah,
Nicest guy you ever met.
he is. I wanted to ask you a bit about stand table projection, because I was trying to have a presentation at the last Southern Men's meeting where I wanted to present on some new work I'm doing with stand table projection. And my title of the talk was Quang Cao is not fair. So I was revisiting my master's work where I looked at Pinar and Harrison's method. And that method that they have, I think is quite beautiful, like algebraically how it works. But it has one parameter per species. And the reason I said Quang Cao is not fair, if you look at your most recent publications with stand table projection, you have like 7, 8 parameters. So I said, yeah, how can one parameter per species compare to 7 or 8?
uh, the new inventory now. We have the thing when you type in the species and diameter and height and everything
Mm-hmm.
to the decimal. Am I right?
Yeah.
So stand table is kind of obsolete, but it's not true. The a few companies, not one, a few companies told me they still use stand table projection because of their old data
Yeah.
base. So it is still kicking,
Right.
and I have a new twist
Mm-hmm.
to the stand table approach. How about uh, stand table? You move the entire diameter class. How about converting to a tree level
Mm-hmm.
thing? Uh, Now, to explain that, let me back up a little bit. Uh, Dick Daniels, him again.
Mm-hmm.
When he was working on his dissertation, I was there, and of course, he worked on the competition index.
Mm-hmm.
But his second work was on the unified. No, he called it the uh, integrated system.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, wouldn't it be nice if we have tree level, stand level, diameter class level, and they're all linked together
Mm-hmm.
in a simple mathematical structure?
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I say dream on. Many people think the same way, but man, what a concept, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, you remember in a recent meeting when we thought it was about Berkeley's retirement,
Yeah.
where everybody thought so. Turned out that was actually Ralph Amantis' retirement.
Yeah.
He did that before he retired.
Right.
But it was so nice of him. So everybody that is somehow linked to Berkeley was there.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought Dick Dance would be there.
Mm-hmm.
So my first slide was Einstein with the unified theory,
Mm-hmm.
from the largest to the smallest.
Mm-hmm.
And then he said he spent all his life but could not fulfill his wish.
Mm-hmm.
And the next slide was Dick Daniels' picture, and everybody laughed.
Yeah.
I said that Daniel wanted to do the same thing. So somebody emailed him. So he emailed me. He said, "I want that PowerPoint." So I sent it to him.
Yeah. That's good.
But that thing was in the back of my mind for a long, long time.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, uh, I figured out how to go from stand level to tree level.
Mm-hmm.
So first, I just look at. Oh, by the way, go back to Daniels. He said that let's start with the most uh, detailed thing, which is a distance dependent model,
Mm-hmm.
and from that you can get the APA, area potentially available.
Mm-hmm.
By that I mean if you have a stand map
Mm-hmm.
and you have a perpendicular bisector
Mm-hmm.
for every pair of trees, you have a polygon around each tree.
Mm-hmm.
A large polygon, that's called APA,
Mm-hmm.
area for that tree.
Yeah.
A large polygon means trees won't die. Probability of survival is high,
Right.
and it will grow faster
Mm-hmm.
than a suppressed tree.
Mm-hmm.
So I say if you look at that and you collapse, he used the um, what do you call it? The telescope
Mm-hmm.
analogy. You put all the way out, it's a tree level. You put it in, it will be diameter. Push all the way in, it will be stand level.
Mm-hmm.
So he said that if you look at the APA and now you collapse to stand level, what you get? The average APA, right? The average area for each tree.
Yeah.
The sum is 1 acre. The average will be 1/n.
Mm-hmm.
That's number of trees.
Mm-hmm.
So 1/n is the surrogate for APA at the same level.
Okay.
Pretty neat.
Yeah.
But he really couldn't go any further. It's just a
Mm-hmm.
concept.
Mm-hmm.
So here I say, okay, let's look at a tree survival,
Mm-hmm.
and the tree survival go from 0 all the way to 1. If you graph it against diameter,
Mm-hmm.
for a small tree, it will be close to 0. For a large tree, close to 1, right?
Mm-hmm.
So first thing in my mind would be a CDF,
Mm-hmm.
cumulative distribution function. And the simplest one with one parameter would be a negative exponential.
Right.
And then I say, okay, let's solve for that parameter such that you sum up all the probabilities of our probability, you get number of trees for that plot, right?
Mm-hmm.
Surviving trees for that plot. Boom. Then you can do that. Give me any stand level model, any number
Mm-hmm.
for the number of trees, future number of trees. You can use this method
Mm-hmm.
and you can get a artificial tree survival function.
Okay.
And problem is, didn't work that well.
Mm.
But I compared it to other ways, and other ways require a tree level data,
Mm-hmm.
like a So you can think of fitting a tree survival equation, right?
Mm-hmm.
One reviewer said, well, it's surprising that without any data, you can still get that good a thing. For example, if the other guy were to 80%, this one go to 60, 70%,
Mm-hmm.
not as good, but very good
Mm-hmm.
considering. So I thought about that. I said, how come it's not good?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, because I start my CDF at 0.
Mm-hmm.
And I look at the graph. I say, okay, I make it given a location parameter. So we start at 95%
Yeah.
of the minimum.
Yeah.
And then I change it to, do a, what you call the, what you call analysis that you change it. Um, do a zero point 0.9 all the way to 0.99.
Like an
You see,
iterative search.
huh?
Like an iterative search.
No, it's just not iterative. You calculate it
Oh,
and
okay.
just see which is the best
Okay.
value. 0.95 sound good.
Mm-hmm.
So it fit like a glove.
Mm.
And guess what? It is better than an individual tree model.
Yeah.
Can you believe that?
Yeah.
It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't make sense, huh? So when you try to model the stand level at the stand level,
Mm-hmm.
it actually has more information
Mm-hmm.
than you try to go individual.
Mm-hmm.
Because remember all this, you have to sum up to the stand level.
Right.
And I use the same method for diameter, one parameter for diameter growth, and make sure that basing area, stand basing area is the same.
Mm-hmm.
So I got the method developed from stand to tree.
Mm-hmm.
Now, from stand table projection, Dean Coble and I we got something together that we can convert it to um, a bunch of truncated distribution.
Mm-hmm.
The guy who started that was Greg Summers.
Yeah.
Smart cookie.
Mm-hmm.
He used a truncated Bible for that.
Mm-hmm.
So uh, so now I say, okay, we have a stand table. We can model that with a bunch of truncated Bible, and instead of a 1 inch class, let's make it 0.1 inch class,
Okay.
and the midpoint would be a individual tree,
Okay.
and that tree will represent how many trees per acre, whatever it is
Mm-hmm.
from that little stand table.
Mm-hmm.
And so now I can convert a stand table into a tree level. I'm back to square one.
Yeah. There you go.
Same thing with the Weibull. Any diameter distribution,
Yeah.
I can make it a real small diameter class
Mm-hmm.
and convert it to a tree level.
Yeah. Okay.
So for this method, if you give me any input
Mm-hmm.
in stand format, stand table format, or tree level format,
Mm-hmm.
we can still project it.
That's interesting. That was an integrated systems approach or something like that. That's a recent publication you have, right?
Yeah, and sometimes I call it unified
Unified.
to honor Einstein.
Yeah.
So to make Dick Daniels remember
Yeah.
that time.
That's funny. Yeah, that's an interesting approach. I'll be interested to see how it works. Just so you know, in the industry, we're kind of limited to the database software that we have, which stores our crews and our grown inventory. And many times those are, or potentially even less resolution, but they're just at this stand table level. the diameter classes, 1 inch or 2 inch classes. So stand table projection is still quite useful. Um, some people are using individual tree models on diameter class data. I don't know of the implications for that, if it would be biased or not biased, but at least some people are doing that. I,
You know what it means is you are assuming a uniform distribution, like a histogram.
Now,
A
but didn't
histogram.
you present, I think maybe in Memphis or was it New Orleans, you presented work that you showed that assuming a uniform distribution in diameter classes was not, it was okay. Didn't you show that?
I don't remember. I don't. Yeah. The we are splitting hair.
Yeah,
The difference is not that great,
yeah,
because what's the difference between R square of 0.92 and 0.90, Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Noise in the data.
But if it's good for a publication doesn't mean it's, practically useful.
Right. Well, I'm interested in to see how your new method gets incorporated into other people's work, because now what we need is some essentially refitting to other species and to see how well it can be applied.
The problem with this method is that I did it for lovely pine,
Mhm.
and there's no reason why it should not be applicable to other species as well,
Right.
as long it is one species.
Hmm.
When you have multiple species,
Hmm.
and you have to kind of rethink
Right.
the modify the method.
Yeah.
But I still think it's doable.
Hmm.
Uh, the idea that you go with the stand level first
Hmm.
and then chop it down to the tree level is very appealing to me.
Hmm.
And people use this what's the term for that? When you uh, when you chop the stand level into little pieces for using the tree information. But that has been around for a long, long time,
Yeah.
and for the same reason.
Hmm.
When you do a stand level model, uh, you have complete control
Hmm.
of the surface,
Hmm.
of the response surface,
Hmm.
like what Burkhardt always say, the response surface,
Hmm.
because you can make it biologically sound.
Hmm.
Well, I heard on your previous podcast about stuff like neural network and AI and all that. That was just like running a stepwise regression.
Yeah.
When you have 1,000 variables, you put in there, you run stepwise, you get what you get for neural network. Am I right? So in
Right.
theory, it's very, very similar.
Hmm.
And uh, I don't know. In my religion, I'm opposed to that.
Yeah.
But the good thing about neural network is that
Hmm.
it is model free.
Hmm.
So you have no preconception
Hmm.
idea about
Hmm.
what you want it to be. Let the data decide. And therefore, uh, never ever use it to extrapolate.
I wanted to ask you about all of your work in diameter distributions, because I said at the beginning of the podcast, you are the diameter distribution guy. No, you're not the guy, you're the king. So I don't know of anybody that's works as much on diameter distributions as you have. It's like every paper that I get to review on diameter distributions, I go, I know Cal is a co-author.
That is
Yeah.
a thing that is not true. When you say that I'm supposed to be, the expert. We have a
Mhm.
meeting, and somebody talk about the Bible, and no question. So they all poke at me.
Yeah.
Cal, you're the Bible king. Say something. So I had
Yeah.
to say something, even though I was not prepared. But The reason why you say that, I think, because I had a paper
Mm,
on CDF regression,
mm,
and us go back to history. Uh, Clutter started that with
mm,
the parameter prediction, and when you predict the alpha
mm,
beta parameter of the beta, and later Bob Bailey predict A, B, and C of the Weibull
mhm,
based on the stand conditions, A, side, and density. And the problem with the C parameter is that if you look in the old uh, Georgia publication, R
mm.
square is 0.1, 10%. So we asked Dr. Bailey, so how come you still use that method? He said, because
Yeah,
it works. Define works
yeah,
because nobody really validate the thing, you know? So later, when I was growing up, when I was preparing my dissertation at 1981, during that time,
mm,
there was a meeting that I did not go to. When people sat around and talk
mm,
about, let's do a moment estimation. So you predict the
mm,
moment, like the mean, the variance, or whatever, and or the mean diameter and Bayesian area, which is the second moment anyway,
mm.
and use that to predict the Weibull, and that's called the uh,
Yes.
not parameter
Yeah.
recovery. Whoever thought of that thing is pretty neat. You recover the Weibull parameter from that, and there's a lot of papers on that. And Dave Hike trying to steal the thunder
Yeah.
by trying to be the first to publish that, and Tom Matney published something like that, and Tom Lynch published his dissertation. Also, there's a part
Mm,
on that. So all at the same time. So you notice when you talk about ground recovery, usually people don't
mhm,
say who invented that, right? Because there's so many people. And then uh, one day I realized that how do you know whether the wire will
mhm.
fit? You do a KS test. KS stand for
Yeah. Close enough. I
Kolmogorov or something like
don't.
that.
Close enough.
You speak Russian, man? Come on. I think we're butchering it. But anyway, the KS test think about a CDF
Mm,
graph where X on the X variable and the Y
right.
variable would be the cumulative probability. So you have the
Mm,
dots for the empirical distribution, the real data,
mhm,
and the smooth curve would be your Y variable, the
mhm,
theoretical or any distribution. And what you want to do is you want to compare
mhm,
the dots to the curve and see if it fit. And the
mhm,
case test look
mhm,
at the maximum difference between the two. So I look at that, I say, okay,
mm,
we are doing the wrong least square. For the uh, parameter prediction method, we are doing the least
mhm,
square on the A, B, and C of the Y ball.
mhm,
I keep saying the Y ball because it's easier, but it could easily be the S of B or the beta. For the parameter recovery, we did it on the mean, on the variance, or the first and the second mean. The second mean was
mhm,
the second moment was the basic area, right? So basically, that's what we do. So we do a least square on the stuff
mhm,
that is not important. If you do well on that, doesn't mean that your CDF is good or PDF is good. So I say, why not just
mhm,
do a least square directly on the CDF to make sure
yeah.
that your dots and your curve are close. So for the parameter prediction, which is the first time I did it, uh,
Mhm,
uh, it's the same equations. but you
Mm-hmm.
do a least square on the CDF instead. And then I have a master student, Krishna Pudel. You know him? He he got
Mm-hmm.
a PhD from out west, and then he came back to Mississippi State. I think he's now like you, working for a company. But anyway, uh, he look at include the
Mm-hmm.
percentile and
Yeah.
also the moment estimator, the prime recovery style. So you do the same thing. You have the same equation, but then you
Mm-hmm.
do a least square on the CDF. Problem with that
Mm-hmm.
is the coding. So at each, remember uh, you are looking at the
Mm-hmm.
parameters for, let's say, for the moments, diameter moments. But at each iteration, you have to recover the
Mm-hmm.
B and C parameter to the variable. And usually we take the location A out of the
Yeah.
thing. We just predict it using regression. Yeah, uh, you
Mm-hmm.
put location A in there, it's just messy. That's my experience. But anyway, for
Mm-hmm.
each iteration, you have to solve for B and C. Actually, you solve for C only. B is a function of C. So it's just one equation, one
Mm-hmm.
unknown. That's why you can easily use the bisection method. By the way, is if you can identify the place when it's positive and negative, it has
Mm-hmm.
to go through zero, right? So it's very stable.
Yeah.
It's not like other method when sometimes you don't have conversions. If you make sure that it is plus and minus on both sides, then you are sure you get an answer. But and that's the thing I asked you before, where whether R can do that or not.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I trust you. R can do it, but it will take
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
effort for sure. But it's not that simple. But you can use proc model or proc anlin to do this easily. So that will be the third method in
Right.
addition to the parameter prediction and parameter recovery. When I was doing that, I say, why CDF? Why not maximum likelihood?
Mm-hmm.
So I call the maximum MLE regression. So same idea. You do that, but you try to maximize the likelihood function. It did not work as well.
Yeah.
You tell me, I don't know. I cannot explain it. Maximum likelihood should be better than you
Mm-hmm.
you just do the CDF, in
Yeah.
real life, right? But not in this case. I don't know. But that's where we stand. And I think somebody did some research and they found the same
Mm-hmm.
thing:
Mm-hmm.
CDF regression better than MLE regression.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's where we are now because from my data, I show that the CDF regression method is better than the other two methods.
Yeah.
Of
Right.
course, you have to do that to get a publication. But it's not that more difficult because once you get the coding done,
Right.
uh, uh, didn't take that much longer.
Well, I'm curious. Yeah, we've got to where we are. Where do you think we're going? Do you have any speculation on what the future might look like?
The the part that I'm familiar with, the growth and new modeling, I
Mm.
think we are near the
Yeah.
upper asymptote. Is it real? Look at how far when Clutter started.
Right.
Anything you put in there, it will be revolutionary. When Burkhardt started, everything you put
Right.
in, he put in, would be evolutionary. And now, at the end of my career, everything we put
Mm-hmm.
in,
Mm-hmm.
it would be for a
Yeah.
paper. You know, it's sad. But the the biometrics, the way we know it,
Mm-hmm.
we may be near the end. That's my feeling. If you are
Yeah.
younger,
Yeah.
the young and the wrestler, prove me wrong. Right? That's my challenge because you look at the new recent thing here. really not much
Mm.
new that we could do. The only new stuff nowadays would
Mm.
be to integrate with something
Right.
else. You talk about LiDAR, is still
Mm-hmm.
not there yet. You have to agree with me. Data is there and everything, but uh, I didn't really see any. I'm not really into the field, but I don't think there are many papers on that and
Yeah.
compare, different methods and so on, and to see how
Mm.
useful that is in terms of economics and in terms of
Right.
accuracy compared to our old-fashioned way. We need more on that.
Mm.
So
Mm-hmm.
it's you're home free if you're in that field.
Yeah.
I talk about the sky's the limit right there. Uh, Another thing is
Mm-hmm.
we're trying to link to the ecology aspect.
Mm.
We talk about landscape level and
Yeah.
everything, stuff that I don't really understand, but I
Mm.
think there's room for growth there because I think there would be a lot of quantitative
Mm.
ecologists that would be dying to work
Yeah.
with us. We
Right.
know stuff they don't, and of course, they know stuff we don't. Okay, and I'm not big on the AI and neural network thing because I can see that's very limited. Uh, uh, it may be useful for companies, but
Mm.
I think it would be difficult to publish. Because when you publish, you talk about extrapolation more.
Well, and the difficult thing about any kind of machine learning methods that when you publish, you don't actually have a model with parameters that you can show. It's just like a black box, and it's like, okay, take my word for it that this is better, you know? And I think nowadays you have to submit the model with your publication. I'm not quite sure.
And also, when they publish these machine learning stuff, this is again splitting hair. The increase in R square or
Right.
whatever it is small. I mean, it's big enough for
Yeah.
publication,
Yeah.
but if you use it, you say, so what? Another thing I
Mm.
forgot to mention was weather.
Mm.
I think Burkhardt trying to fool with
Mhm.
that, and I don't think he was successful. Including weather
Yeah.
into our system didn't really help that much. So that is another way. Try to get all the other information that right now we use for the neural network type or machine learning. Try to include that
Yeah.
in our theoretical model. I, but I
Mhm.
don't think it will be successful.
Mhm.
People tried
Yeah, I
and was
think
not successful.
I tried a lot to incorporate weather into growth and yield models, climate into growth and yield models when I was in Norway. And it did not work very well. And incorporating those variables would increase R squared just by a tiny amount. But I think there's probably definitely some room for improvement there. There's probably something out there that we're just missing, and maybe I don't know if it's just our measurement intervals are too short, or maybe they're not long enough. I don't know, but there's definitely room for improvement there, and I'm hoping we'll see something at least that comes around that really improves the models. But I don't know.
You've been to many meetings in growth and yield. You notice that lately uh, we don't have that many
Hmm. Hmm.
presentation on the pure growth and yield models. It's on about basically the use of math
Right.
and stat in solving forestry problem,
Right.
but it's not about growth and yield modeling. So I'm really glad that I'm not born in this
Yeah.
generation because
Yeah.
it'll be tough if you want to stay in this field. You will be doing something else. And
Mhm.
of course, GIS is a big deal right now. And speak of that, I don't think we have seen the integration of GIS and growth and yield modeling. Do you?
Yeah.
Basically, you just use it. But that that will be something is like a virgin territory, and anything new is good. Yeah, as long as you have somebody who's inquisitive enough to think about it.
So I wanted to keep it at an hour, but I just couldn't because the conversation was so much fun. I really appreciate you coming on and having the conversation with me and sharing your story. So again, I really appreciate you and thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks, man, for making me a movie star.
Well, it's not me, it's all the people watching who are going to make you the star. So we thank you all for watching, and until next time, bye.